Welcome back from our break. That was a really good coffee, by the way, Jake. For our virtual audience, I hope you have enjoyed our interlude into ESET Science Award, which since 2019 has recognized and honored excellent Slovak scientists.
And that's the perfect segue into our next guest. So Roman Kovac, ESET's Chief Research Officer, is going to be talking about a different, or slightly different level of education. Welcome to the stage.
Please welcome Roman, who will give us his insights into how to best defend ourselves against cyber threats in the real world. Roman, the stage is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. So my name is Roman Kovac, and I will talk about cyber threat intelligence. Okay, so before I start, here's the agenda of my talk. At first, I will talk about intelligence in general. After that, I will talk about cyber threat intelligence, basically what it is, why it is useful, and so on. After that, I will talk about ESET threat intelligence, basically what ESET is able to offer in this area. And at the end, I will mention a couple of tips or actions, if you will, which all of you can consider to take. So let me start with the intelligence in general, and let me start with the question, what is intelligence? Now, one way to look at it is to compare information and intelligence. Information is typically one piece of data coming from a single source. Sometimes it is without too much content, too much context. Sometimes it is without additional information. It can be confusing. Sometimes it can be even wrong. So for example, if I tell you this hotel bar serves a coffee, now that's an information. On the other hand, if I go to town and ask a couple of locals, where can I find the best coffee? And I analyze their answer and add some additional information like opening hours and so on. That's intelligence. You see the difference, right? So intelligence is product of combining information from several sources, enriching it with additional data to create something bigger. Recently, I stumbled upon this article, a book actually. It's called Getting to Know the Enemy, and it's about intelligence collection. Let me read a few sentences from this text. Required constant knowledge on the enemy. Or, state's priority is to protect its subjects from foreign aggression. The collection of information on the enemy is an inherent necessity for the accomplishment of this duty. Now, question, what do you think, which country is this book about? Any guess? You would be maybe surprised as I was. It's about Malta. And you would be maybe even more surprised that it is about Malta's intelligence network in 17th century. So back then, Malta was ruled by Knights Hospitallers, one of military orders of medieval era. They came to Malta from Jerusalem through Cyprus and Rhodes, and they were basically predecessors of current Order of Malta or Knights of Malta. And the book talks about how Malta collected intelligence on its enemy, on information about size, position, and intended targets of Ottoman fleets. It's about network of intel agents, about intelligence delivery routes, and so on. It's interesting reading. So the intelligence played an important role in Malta's history, but it played a very important role even long before that and long after that. For example, the last chapter of famous book, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, is dedicated to intelligence collection. And what about Cold War, widely regarded as golden age of espionage and spycraft, like this shoe transmitter device, which allowed intelligence officials to listen in on everything being said. But let's fast forward to 21st century and talk about cyber threat intelligence. Now, businesses and organizations are like castles. They build their defenses of their systems, of their infrastructures, but adversaries breach these defenses. So organizations had to adapt, but as they adapt, adversaries adapt as well, and so on. So cyber defense is not a static thing, it's not one-time task. Organizations use cyber threat intelligence to better understand, predict, and adapt to the behaviors of malicious actors, be it cybercrime or nation states. But really, what is cyber threat intelligence? One way to look at it is to define it through three things: data, speed, and accuracy. So for threat intelligence, you need data and you need a lot of it, but speed is also very important because getting intelligence in timely manner is a key. And what about accuracy? Well, actionable intelligence has to be accurate enough to prevent and counter threats, but at the same time, of course, also to prevent constant false alarms. In cyber defense and cyber threat intelligence, pyramid of pain is an interesting concept. It's not new, but it's still very interesting. So at the bottom of the pyramid, you have standard indicators like hash values, IP addresses, and so on. And as you move up this pyramid, you go to more behavioral indicators like tools and TTPs, meaning tactics, techniques, and procedures adversaries use. Now, by employing indicators from top of the pyramid in your cyber defense and in detection, you are executing more pain to the adversary. And that's basically one way how to fight them, right? We want to make it more harder and more expensive for them to operate. So indicators from different layers of this pyramid have different value, but they all together create some knowledge. And armed with this knowledge, organizations can fine-tune their defenses. So what does it mean, how to picture that knowledge? Well, it can have many forms, and some are visible here on the slide. It can be information about malware adversary uses, or information about CNC server, command and control server in form of IP address, or it can be information about tactic or technique actors use. For example, how they acquire initial access, or how they perform lateral movement, and so on. Now, second question can be, why is cyber threat intelligence important? Well, first thing that comes to my mind is prevention. It helps us to avoid breaches. It helps us to prevent loss of sensitive data. But it is also important during incident investigation. So when breach already happened, it helps us to investigate details of this incident. But is cyber threat intelligence only about prevention, incident investigation, and cyber defense? Because that sounds too technical, right? Well, the answer is obviously no. In reality, it translates to many other benefits, like it brings knowledge, it brings effectiveness, it reduces risk, and it reduces costs. So now when we know what cyber threat intelligence is and why it is important, let's look at how it can be obtained. So it can come from several sources in many forms. As for forms, you can have feeds, you can have reports, you can have consultations, and so on. As for sources, there are basically two main options. Open source intelligence is one of them. And MITRE-ATT&CK is a very good example of that, because MITRE-ATT&CK knowledge base is typically built on intelligence that is published by companies as ESET. An alternative to that are commercial threat feeds and data reports. So what's the difference between free and paid intelligence? Because free should be good, right? But it is often very time-consuming for organization. Why? Because organizations or experts for internal security can't have eyes on everything all the time, and it's especially true when deeper analysis is needed. A free intelligence is also often not complete because not everything can be found as open source intelligence. Another thing is also, and I'm saying this as a vendor, as an honest vendor, nobody sees everything. And there is a study which shows that organizations that take threat intelligence seriously typically combine over 7 sources of threat intelligence in general. So do I need 7 sources? Well, if you have 0, then start with 1 and add more as your needs indicate and as your budget allows. Some of you might ask who actually benefits from cyber threat intelligence, who is actually using it. So obviously it depends on type and size of organization, but we have automation on one side. What does it mean? Organizations use a lot of tools like firewalls, EDR, CMs, TIPS, threat intelligence platforms, and so on. Some are listed here on the slide. And these tools can typically consume threat intelligence data and benefit from it. But in addition to these tools, there are several roles within each organization which can benefit from the right cyber threat intelligence as well, or even the cyber threat intelligence can be crucial for them. So you have defenders, you have SOC analysts, incident responders, intel analysts. Then you have blue teams, red teams, purple teams. And you also have CISOs, decision makers, and executive management. Obviously, executive management can't benefit from the same type of intelligence as SOC analyst or red team expert. So hence we distinguish four types of threat intelligence. We have strategic, tactical, operational, and technical, and each has its own audience. ESET threat intelligence offers all four or covers all four. So customers can have either access to full context and information-rich package, or can select specific type of intelligence they miss and they need. And this brings us to ESET threat intelligence, so let's see what it can offer. Now, threat intelligence is typically built in a cycle, and collection and analysis are important part of this cycle. And they have to be built on high-quality data sources, so let's explore those. So for this presentation, I prepared a couple of examples of sources as ESET is using them. So first one, obviously, telemetry. So our telemetry sensors give us a lot of useful information, but further collection and post-processing gives us even more info, and that can improve our protection and detection capabilities, but it is also part of ESET threat intelligence. So what you can see here on the slide is basically that, for example, if we see malware somewhere out there, and in this case represented by hash, it is not typically isolated information, because from malware we can also see what URL it was downloaded from. From URL we can also see which domain is linked to it. From the domain we can see from other data what kind of IP addresses are or were related to this domain. From these IP addresses we can see another domains which were used with these IP addresses. From these other domains we can see another URLs. From another URLs we can see new samples of malware and so on. So it's basically kind of like cycle which enriches itself. Second example is our backend tracking system. Like botnet tracker is one of good examples. If I have a malware of botnet type, it allows us to act upon it. So what I can do by simulation, I can plug it into botnet tracker, and by simulation I can act as a part of being part of botnet. And this gives us a lot of benefits because we can learn about new CNCs, we can learn about configuration of the botnet. From configuration we can see web injects, URLs like targets, and so on and so on. We can also learn about new CNCs which weren't even used yet in the wild. We can also get access to new samples, botnet updates, and so on and so on. So again, these automatic systems are enriching the information and generate new and new intelligence. So what I'm trying to say, ESET threat intelligence is not just about simple indicator collection and wrapping it nicely. Internally, we employ a lot of technology and a lot of know-how for further processing and enriching this knowledge. And of course, on top of that, skilled team of threat intel analysts and researchers play also a very important role. These researchers constantly study and analyze various threat actors, their motivations, their TTPs and tools they use, And this knowledge is also, of course, part of ESET Threat Intelligence. ESET Threat Intelligence has currently two main parts. First one, data feeds. So as for data feeds, we have a malicious file feed, domain feed, URL feed, IP feed, APT feed, botnet feed, including CNCs and targets, and so on. All these feeds are available in standard sticks format via taxi server, so customer can consume it using tool or solution of the choice. And here on the right side of the slide, you can see example of data from data feed. Obviously, it differs depending on type of feed, but in this case, you can see there list of CNC servers, list of targets, in this case, list of banks from UK that were targeted, information about malware and additional metadata, and so on. So these were data feeds. Now, second important part of ESET Threat Intelligence are APT reports. APT reports is actually a package which consists of several types of reports. We have activity summary, technical analysis, monthly overview report. Customer also get access to APT data feed, also to APT MISP server, which allows basically customer to consume data in a more automatic fashion. Customers also get access to Threat Intel Analysts, which is also very important for additional consultations and so on. And pre-publication access to technical blog posts and threat reports published on VLIF Security is also part of the package. So for this presentation, here I have two examples of reports, so you have a rough idea what I'm talking about. So first one is activity summary, and this is technical report that offers summary of new activities of monitored threat groups within time frame of 2 weeks. It includes executive summary, groups overview, activity summary. It includes sections like victimology, infection vectors, and so on. It also includes a lot of IOCs, network indicators, YARA rules, NORD rules, and so on. So a lot of data and a lot of context. So this is technical report, and it's typically useful for defenders, blue teams, SOC analysts, incident investigators, and so on. Second example, in contrary to that, is way less technical, and it is used mainly by executive management or CISOs or decision makers. It's called monthly overview. It also contains executive summary on activities of various groups, but without too much technical context and without too much too many technical indicators and so on. On the other side, it's full of other content. For example, you can see there information about targeted countries, information about targeted verticals. It's full of maps or timeline infographics. It also contains examples of decoy documents that actors used during most recent campaigns, and so on. So this second example, monthly overview report, this report provides CISOs and managers good level of understanding of threat actor current activities, their targets, and their motivations. So, all right, and now let's look at some actions you can potentially consider to take. So, if you are ESET Office partner or reseller, ask ESET for product bulletin and other materials, and study ESET Threat Intelligence offering. And most importantly, think about customers and potential customers that might benefit from new source of threat intelligence or might be interested in enhancing their cybersecurity defense by utilizing ESET Threat Intelligence. If you are ESET customer or maybe potential customer, think about your cybersecurity posture and think about data sources and sources of intelligence you use, if any, at all. And consult with ESET. Get product bulletin and other materials, get trial access to threat data feeds. You can get APT reports examples, simply evaluate our offering. Most importantly, use ESET Threat Intelligence to improve your cyber defense, your knowledge, reduce your risks, and your costs. Good, that's all from me. Some parts might have been a bit maybe too theoretical, but good news, next speaker who will be introduced soon will talk about more practical examples and will show you what kind of threat intelligence ESET is capable to build and what kind of threat intelligence ESET is able to offer to its customers. So thank you very much.